Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to part 2 of how to crush your ERAS application. I'm sharing the process of how I got 31 residency interview invites and how you can do same and hopefully more. So I have my ERAS application printed out and we're gonna go through everything I put down for my application. The first part of the application is called general information. So this is the area where you put your name, your preferred name, designated program, designated pronouns, your most recent school, ID stuff, self-identification, your race, your present mailing address, and your permanent mailing address. And I didn't realize it, but my permanent mailing address came up a lot because people are like, oh, you're from this state, I'm from this state too. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So it's actually something that people bond over. It's a really mundane thing that you don't think about. But actually think about your permanent mailing address, where you put it, because people would find ties with that when they're interviewing you. The next thing is military service or obligation. For me, that was a no. And then there's other service obligation, which is also a no. The next section is the geographic and settings preferences. And this section is actually very important because I believe that you are supposed to select up to 3 states in the United States where you would prefer to do your training. So you would have to choose not just 3 states, but sort of like 3 regions. So like if you're from like the West Coast, so that like the California area and the states surrounding that, or the Northeast, like, you know, the Massachusetts, Boston area, or Midwest, which is the Minnesota area. So my advice for this is that think about it critically. If like moving home and moving to a familiar place is very important to you, you need to make that very clear in your application, because certain times some programs will not interview people who are from out of the geographic preference. You wouldn't get it if a school is located in California, and I feel like the West Coast is like very notorious for that. If you're not from the West Coast, it can be really hard to convince them that you want to come to the West Coast, unless it's like something specialty that's ultra competitive and they know that people genuinely do not care and would do their training wherever they need to get their training. For me, when it came to geographic and settings preferences, I do not have a preference, and for setting preferences, definitely no preference. And the reason why I did that is because, as you guys know, I'm an immigrant to the country. I'm originally from Ghana, did high school in Ghana before moving here. And although I have family in the United States in different states, I particularly do not have any ties to any state. I will move to go anywhere to get my educational training. I started from Virginia, where I did community college and university, and then from there I moved to Maryland for a little bit, and from there I went to Rhode Island to do my master's program, and then ended up in Minnesota. So when it comes to moving to get what I want, I absolutely do not mind. I was willing to move to Utah to get my training. Wherever I needed to go to, Ohio, where I'm currently at, I wouldn't mind. So for me, I was very honest with myself, and I put down I do not have a division preference nor setting preference, because truly I did not have one. The next section of the application is the state medical license. So if you've had a license before, they want to know that, and you should put that in the application. The other part is additional questions, which is about like, you know, like felony, misdemeanor, like ever had your medical license suspended, ever had like a most youth malpractice. Thankfully for me, all of that was no. So then I was able to like put that in. There's also one question here that I'm realizing I said yes, and that's like, are you able to carry out the responsibilities and requirements of the specific training programs to which you're applying with or without reasonable accommodations? I put yes, I'm able to do that. The next section is about certifications. Do you have any board certifications? Yes or no. It's very simple. For me, I put no. Other medical or health certifications, I don't have any of them as of the time I was applying, so I put no. The next thing is a DEA registration, which is funny because like back then when I was applying, I didn't know what that was. So it was like a definite no for me. However, now DEA registration, I have to do that as a resident, and that's like about prescribing like opioids and stuff like that. So you need to get registered and get a number and yada, yada, yada. The next section is about your medical education. So for that, you need to put your institution and location, the dates you attended, the degree, and the date of the degree. So for me, I went to the Mayo Clinic Alley School of Medicine. I put down the date I attended, and date of degree, I knew that I was graduating in May 2025. So then I put that in. The next one is any unplanned professionalism or academic issues that cause interruptions or extensions. So if you take a year off, this is the area where you need to explain that. The next section is about your education. Aside from your medical school, what other education have you had? So for me, I put down my graduate school. I went to Brown University, and I put down my undergraduate, and I went to UVA, and I was at UVA for 3 years because I did community college for 1 year. And when I was trying to put it together, I couldn't find like a community college option, so I just left it. And then my dates attended was like 3 years of like college, and people actually noticed that. Some people were like, oh, did you finish college in 3 years? I was like, no, I didn't finish in 3 years. I did community college before I transferred, but for some reason with the ERAS, when I was applying, that wasn't an option. The next section is postgraduate training. So that means that after you completed medical school, have you done any other training before applying to like, residency? So did you go get like an MPH? Did you go do like a PhD? Any other thing you've done after medical school before applying for residency? For me, that was a no-brainer. It was none. So I did that. The next section, which is very, very important, is your honors and awards. Now, this was an advice I got very early in medical school, like months into medical school. And I'm so glad my mentor told me that very early in the beginning. And he told me, Grace, when it comes to your ERAS application, it's awards, 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 and honors. And I was like a little baby medical student, but I'm so glad he told me that, because I feel like that part of my application was very heavy. When it comes to awards and honors, you can put your awards from university up until medical school. I think high school is a little bit of a stretch unless it's like something significant. Maybe you got something like got a presidential award that you want them to know about. But if that's not the case and it's your little musical at your high school, I think it's a stretch to add it. But I would recommend all your awards from like your undergraduate up until your time when you're applying. For me, I had a total of, let's count, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I had 11 awards and honors when I was applying, and I remember like putting them in and being like so excited. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh wow, it's actually like a lot of things that I've accomplished, and I was so grateful to God for that. Before we go to the awards that I have, 2 other questions that they ask you is if you've gotten the Alpha Omega Alpha recognition, which is like a very prestigious recognition for like super talented medical students. I'm like, all medical students are like talented. So if you're getting the Alpha, Omega, or Alpha, you really stand out as like brilliant or something like that. We don't have a chapter in my school, so I put no Alpha or Omega chapter in my school. And the next thing is the Gold Humanism Honor Society. And that one is also similar to Alpha or Omega Alpha, but I think this one also has to do with like people who are like altruists and like very like service oriented, care about the community. We do have a chapter in my school, but I wasn't integrated into that. So I put no Gold Humanism Honor Society chapter at my school. So when it comes to the grants and awards that I have, we can go through them. The first one I have on here is a grant from the American Heart Association. So in my 4th year of medical school, I was accepted to do my own research under the mentorship of an AHA mentor, and it's called the American Heart Association. It's called the American Heart Association Research Supplement to Promote Diversity in Science. It was a grant sum of $33,694 to conduct research on the use of a home-based cardiac rehabilitation program. I can go on and on about cardiac rehabilitation. I was just about to, but I'm like, let me not bore you guys. The second one I have here is an internal Mayo Clinic scholarship fund that I got to help support my education at Mayo Clinic. And that is the Cecile V. and Eliana A. Abbott Endowed Educational Fund Scholarship, and that awarded me with a $10,700 scholarship towards my living expenses, renewable for 3 years for medical school. The next one I have here is my full ride scholarship, or should I say my full tuition and my $18,000 stipend, which is also renewable for 3 years, and that's from the Dolores Zorab Fund Fellowship. If you're looking for a video with like scholarships to apply for medical school, highly check out my video here where I compile all of the scholarships you can apply to for medical school. The next scholarship I have here is the Hoffman Fund for Global Health, and this is also an internal award awarded by our medical school. It gives you $1,250 to explore global health, and for my year we went to Dominican Republic and we volunteered with like mobile clinics. The next one I have here is Humanism in Healthcare Award, and this was an award I got from Brown after my year doing my master's education. And the description is for academic excellence while embodying the qualities of empathy and compassion at Brown University. The next one I have here is the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Looking to the Future Scholarship. So this is a travel scholarship, an all-expense travel scholarship for medical students who attend the STS conference and get exposed to cardiothoracic surgery, the field of cardiothoracic surgery, as well as like network with other professionals in the field. The next one here is my Stanford Cardiovascular Institute Summer Research Scholar, which if you've been following me, I talk about greatly in this video here. I spent about 10 weeks in Stanford really doing research about heart transplantation. The next one I have here is from my college days, and it's like UVA Center for Global Health Research Scholar. Got $10,000 with a team to pursue telemedicine in Ghana. So as you can tell, like I like global health, like there's a theme to all of these things. And then this is like one of the awards I was really proud of, but it's the UVA Mandison Lane and Rugby Road Charitable Trust Visual Arts Prize winner. So as you know, I love to take pictures, I love photography, and I won $2,500 for outstanding creative work at the University of Virginia. I remember what I did with that money. I went to buy myself a lens, I got a driver's license, like it was good. I was like, wow, it was really good money, and it really helped support me just right after I'd graduated from UVA and like sort of like finding my footing. The next one I have here is UVA Parent Fund Internship Grant winner. So with this one, I got $3,000 in addition to the $10,000 I'd gotten with my team to pursue telemedicine in Koforidua, Ghana. The last one here is the Women in Thoracic Surgery Travel Scholarship, where it was like a fully funded travel scholarship to attend the AATS conference, which is the American Association for Thoracic Surgery conference. So as you guys know, when it comes to grant awards, I'm a gunner. If I see it, I apply for it. It's a knee-jerk reaction. Quite frankly, if there's one person who is on this board, still be like so sick and tired of seeing my name on every application, because I'm like, it's free money. That's what it literally is. It's free money. You just have to sit down and put together an application, write why they should give you the money, and pray for the best. And quite frankly, that's all that I do. I have a video on how to put together all of these like personal statement stuff right here, so you can watch it to find out tips on how I'm always winning these scholarships. The next section of this application is the professional membership. And professional membership is very key when you are applying to a specific specialty of choice. The reason why it's key is because you want to show that you've like explored that specialty, you're interested in that specialty. So for me, I had 3 professional memberships. The American Heart Association, I got a grant from them, so naturally I had to sign up for a membership. So I'm like, okay. And the other one was the American Society of Preventive Cardiology. I submitted an abstract and I was invited to do a poster presentation on my research. So with that one, as part of like registering for the conference, you had to sign up for membership. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And the last one is the Society of Thoracic Surgery. I'm very interested in cardiothoracic surgery, so being a part of the Society for Thoracic Surgery is a no-brainer. The fee is like very minimal for like medical students and residents. I think maybe like $50 a year, and then you do not have to pay for like conference registration and conference fees, which this was the first society I applied to in the first conference I went to. So then they really spoiled me, because like after that I thought like for medical students you could go to conferences for free. But I went to CHEST to submit my research, and damn, CHEST, they charge like $400. I was like, that's insane. So yeah, those are some of the perks for professional membership, and I highly recommend you sign up for it. They're usually not too expensive, between like $50 to $100 for membership, and it's good for your application. The next part of the ERAS application is your experiences. And once again, for my year, they gave a limit. So a limit of 10 experiences that you want to talk about and go into more, talk about for your ERAS application. 10 experiences that you feel have shaped your trajectory in medical school. And out of the 10, you get to choose 3 where you write a little paragraph about why it's most meaningful. It's really a lot, so I'm just gonna go over the 10 that I put down, and then we're gonna go through like one of my most meaningful so you get an idea. The 10 that I put down was my pre-doctoral research fellowship with the American Heart Association. I also was a mentor, a pre-medical student mentor, volunteer at my school, so I put that down. I started a cardiothoracic surgery interest group with one of my other classmates who was the co-founder, and I put that in my application as well. In medical school, I was a TA, so I put that in the application. Student volunteer trip to the Dominican Republic, I put that in. My Stanford experience, the award I got, I put that in. And then I put down my experience leading Bible study at school. It's a leadership experience for me, and I really wanted to talk about it. And I feel like that was like a nice way to make it clear. I'll put in my application that faith was important to me. I was a Christian and faith was important to me, because sometimes when it comes to these applications, it gets very tricky, and I've had people reach out to me and be like, I want to talk about like my faith in my application or my personal statement, but like, how do I go about it? And I think this way was like a very brilliant way to do it without being like so overt in your face, particularly when you have non-Christians reviewing your application. And this came up a few times in my interviews. Like some people that were Christians were like, hey, like I'm also like, either they were a part of like CMDA, or it was like a really nice way to talk about faith in like interviews without being like, are you a Christian? Are you not a Christian? That kind of thing. And the next thing, I was SNMA president, and SNMA is a student body for underrepresented minorities. They have chapters in all medical schools. So I did that for a year, and that was in my application. The other thing was that I was a co-leader for a student-run free clinic. I did that for a year, so that also ended up on my application. And another thing here, which was very important to me, but I actually didn't do it in medical school, was my job. So after I graduated from my master's program, I worked for a year as a research associate at the University of Maryland in their cardiothoracic division, and that's how I got introduced to this specialty. So for me, it was very important to add it and include it in the application. Now, let's go to one of the experiences, so you get like a sense of like how to frame it. And for me, I put down my pre-doctoral research fellowship with the AHA, and it was a very meaningful project for me. Still is. I'm wrapping it up. So I wrote about that. So for that one, you put down the organization, it's the AHA, you put out the dates, you're starting and finishing, you put the location, participation frequency, the setting, is it urban, is it rural? and the experience type. So all of this, they're like drop downs, so you don't have to like think about where do I put this. It's just, they give you a list of options and then you choose one. So for this, it was research, so I did that. Primary focus, I put down community involvement and outreach, and the key characteristic when it comes to research is critical thinking and problem solving. The next section, you have to discuss what the context was, what the roles was, and what the responsibilities was. And for me, I put down that it's a 1-year fellowship under the mentorship of a current AHA awardee to provide research mentorship for pre-doctoral fellow from an underrepresented racial and ethnic group. The reason why it's important to do this is because you know it, and this is your experience, and you know it and you do it. But sometimes we have a blind spot, not realizing that other people do not know this, and people in the medical field love to learn. So this is one way to teach them about what you're doing and what it's about. The next thing I put down, these are like bolts and nuts. What's this about? What was my role? To develop research objectives and proposal on the use of a home-based cardiac rehabilitation program, conduct and lead focus group discussion related to the research project, as well as interpret and evaluate outcomes of research using in vivo and SAS statistical software. And the outcome was to write 1 manuscript and present my work at conferences. Why was it the most meaningful? The most meaningful, it's like 3 lines. It's actually very, very short. And I'm like, why do you guys limit us so much when you asked us to write the most meaningful and then it's like 3 lines? So you really have to be creative, succinct, and straight to the point. And for me, I put down that as a researcher, I have learned that I can always start from a place of relative uncertainty and arrive at a destination that is unplanned yet authentic and legitimate. I plan to incorporate this precise problem-solving approach I have learned into clinical practice. So that's just an example of how to set up your experiences section and also how to write a most meaningful. The next part of the application, which I highly recommend you talk about if you have an experience, is the impactful experience. So I like this section because it's kind of vague. They don't tell you exactly what you're looking for, so you can write anything. But basically, any experience in your life that you feel has impacted your trajectory to get into medical school, impacted your way of thinking, your way of life, just like life experience that you feel is important to highlight, I'd recommend you do that. For me, I'm not going to be sharing what I wrote. I'll probably share it down the line in a few years, but for now, I'm not going to share what I wrote as my impactful experience. But I did write something because I immigrated into the United States and I had some significant challenges along the way. So I summarized it and I wrote it. And this part of my application came up in a lot of my interviews, to the point where I'll go for an interview and the interviewer would tell me, I don't have any question for you. You're like, yeah, I don't have any question for you. Do you have any question for me? And then they would tell me like, yeah, like I read your application. I read about your impactful experience. You clearly have tenacity. You clearly have drive. Like I answered all the questions for the interviews ahead of time. So I'd go for the interview and they're like, yeah, we don't have any question for you. And then they would ask me about like, one of my research projects, or like they would like sell their program to me pretty much. So that's it about impactful experience. Highly recommend you write something down if you feel you have like an impactful experience that has shaped who you are. The next section is the hobbies and interests section. So for me, I wrote about my pre-med channel and how I love to educate and teach people and mentor people through their medical journey. I think this is a place for people to shine and write their unique hobbies. Like, don't write about being a baker and being a hiker. Unless that's like truly your hobby, but I feel like everyone has that hobby except for me. I really hate hiking. Like I'll stay at the bottom of the mountain. Please, we don't hike around here. But write about those interesting things that you love to do. And I know if you've been following me for a while, you know like how I'm big on like hobbies and interests, because it just helps you stand out and help you bond with other people. Like for my med school application, I wrote that I love Korean dramas. But for medical school, I'm like, let's be a little more serious. And I wrote about YouTube. So a lot of my interviews, they'll be like, oh, are you vlogging right now? Where's your vlogging camera? Quite frankly, my interviews were like so fun. Very few of them were very serious. A lot of them, it was like, are you on TikTok? What's your Instagram? It was a good time. After that, the next section of the application, which people debate is like probably the most important part of the application. I don't think it is. I think it's a significant part of the application, but not a die or be all. And this is the part of the application where most people spend their entire medical school life on, and it is publications. So as you know, American medicine academia thrives on research, and I personally enjoy research. I love to have a question, go through a process, and come up with an outcome. But unfortunately, we've gotten into a society where research is currency. How much research you have determines which specialties you are going into and which hospitals you're going to be training at. So it can be very stressful, quite frankly, to feel like you are in this space where you just need to publish. And I feel like in medical school, I was beginning to get into that mindset of like, it doesn't matter, I just need to get myself on a paper. And it's true, you need to get yourself on a paper. But the thing is that when you go for the interview, they're gonna ask you about the paper. And if you don't talk about it with like passion and drive, basically your interview is just like one. So at a certain point in medical school, I got very selective with the kind of research I involved myself in. If I wasn't interested, I just said it up front, I'm not interested, and I like moved on with my life. I would always choose quality over quantity, but for some programs, quite frankly, they take a pen and a paper and they count your publications, and for them it's quantity because they want people that publish. And I was like, you know what, if that's the kind of program you are, then you are not for me, because I am not about publish, because so many people publish and there's like so much junk out there, and people publish a ton of papers and don't even know, and they go to interviews and like people know, so then you go there with your 40 publications and they'll just like randomly pick one and be like, hey, talk about this one, and you're left looking like an idiot because all you did was data collection and you don't even know what the paper was about. So when another thing about the publication is that so many things count towards it. Prior to a few months before ERAS, I thought like publications was just manuscripts. So how many manuscripts do you have? But later on, I figured out that like publications involve peer-reviewed journal articles and abstracts. It also involves peer-reviewed journal articles and abstract in brackets other than published. Maybe they were like under review or you've submitted it, but it wasn't like actually published. And the other section was also poster presentations. So poster presentations count. And once again, at the beginning of my medical school, that was the advice I got. Poster. Like I can pull a poster out of anything. Posters are very easy to do. If you need help with posters, how to get posters, go to my website, www.gracepatrice.com, look for my 1.5-hour consulting service, and I'll be more than happy to talk you through that. The other session part of the publication is the oral presentation. So if you've had any oral presentation, it also counts towards your publications. And I believe when I was applying, I didn't have any manuscript published, so I didn't have any of those drop downs included. But I believe they have like peer-reviewed journal articles, abstracts are like actually published, and a few other ones that once you start your ERAS application, you would see. So now let's go into my publications and let's see how many publications that I have and what they were about. In total, I had 14 applications. 2 of them were peer-reviewed journal articles and abstracts. Another 2 were peer-reviewed journal articles and abstracts, which hadn't been published, but I was working on, either I had submitted or they were under review. And I have those 2 on here. And this one about like heart transplantation got published this year in the Chest Journal right here. So if you have some time, go read about my research on lung transplantation. Yay! And then the remainder of my work was really poster presentations. And the last one that I have here, I had done 1 oral presentation and I included it. The next section on this application is which languages are you proficient in? A lot of us are obviously proficient in English, and I feel like for immigrants, we don't like to put down that we are proficient in our like local language. But for me, I was pulling out anything and everything, and Chi and Ga is not listed as like the options, but I chose other and I typed it in. So as you can see, I have on there that aside from English, the other languages I can speak is Chi and Ga, because America has become a melting pot with different people from different parts of the world, and yet I'm definitely going to meet patients that are Ghanaian that may not be very fluent in English, and I would have to speak Chi or Ga to them. So there you go. The next part of it, and I believe this is the last part of the ERAS when you are putting it together, is your hometown. So you put your hometown where my hometown is Accra, Ghana, and I put that in, and the setting is urban. And lastly, you certify your application, you put down the date, and then you are ready to go. So this is like the first part of like ERAS, putting together your ERAS application. And once you put everything in, it also sort of like generates this like CV for you. So this is like my CV that it generated for me. Very nice. It just like pulls all the things you've put down, like experience and publications, that kind of stuff, and puts together. Now, the second part of your ERAS application is your personal statement. So for that one, we're gonna go to part 3 of this video where I break down my personal statement. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.